What do weddings, millipedes, snakes, and the barber of Seville have in common? Something that is oh so disgustingly entertaining. Hey everyone, this is D, Movie Man, fellow cinephile, popcorn addicts, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And today, of course, I'm coming to you all with yet another episode of The Traitors, Season 3, Episode 7, Till Death Do Us Part. So, picking back up where we left off at the end of the last episode, we see that the chaos and confusion that has followed most of the Traitors' strategy throughout this season has now officially infiltrated the Traitors' alliance and general sense of unity. Which means that now, choosing a faithful for elimination is going to be much easier said than done. When the subject of elimination is brought up, we hear Danielle saying she could care less. As always, I do believe the correct phrase is...
Couldn't.
What?
You couldn't care less what other people think. Though, I doubt that.
Shout out to Elphaba, but it is also made very clear, very quickly, that this is not the case because we mentioned Sam, we mentioned Derek, and we mentioned Britney. And that is immediately confirmed when we see Rob throwing out multiple names, which includes Dylan, Derek, and Sam, and Danielle makes it clear that she's not down for any of those, at least for the time being. So, of course, the next morning at breakfast, we discover that the eliminated faithful is none other than Derek. I'm not surprised, given the circumstances, but I also think it's not smart. Because how many times are you going to go after the person who just floated your name? And I'm sorry, but the whole, yeah, they're framing me. They're framing me. They're setting me up. I'm like, no. Look, that can only go so far. All right. I get what you're trying to do, but it ain't clicking for me. And it shouldn't be clicking for anybody else. But these faithful, like I said, are a little bit dun. So I shouldn't expect too much at this point. And in the end, the only reason Danielle goes along with this is if they can agree to truly start over. I'm just like, ain't nobody starting over at this point. I just feel like once trust is broken in life, but definitely in a competitive game where money is on the line, oh, bump that. Bump the trust. I'll let you think I trust you, but do I trust you? Heck no. To the no. Of course, we see Danielle over here in the corner with the theatrics with the... All right. Anyway, the first thing my mom and I noticed, I mean, she said it first, but I kind of noticed it too. But even outside of the tears, or even before the tears, Danielle just had this sour, miserable look on her face. And I'm just like, where is the poker face? Like, it's just like everything she could possibly be thinking in her mind, you can see on her face. I'm just like, goodness. I don't see Danielle playing any type of card game because... she would go down in flames. Not unlike the way she's handling this particular game. We also hear Britney saying that Ivar is just like furniture that gets moved from room to room. And I'm like, I mean, that's tough talk, but ultimately, for the majority of these episodes, we've seen neither hide nor hair of you. So, I understand that comes down to editing, but I'm like, Britney, you have not really... been handling yourself well throughout this season thus far. So I'm like, not too much on Ivar. Dylan lets Rob know that he has some tea. Let me just add very quickly, it's so interesting when certain forms of language become mainstream. Now, there is another word I could use to describe that, and I could really expound on that if I wanted to, but instead I will say that it is very much interesting. But anyway, unsurprisingly, we discovered that Dylan is very much lodged still up Rob's hind parts, and he ain't dislodging himself anytime soon. Which means that he is more than willing to spill the beans regarding what Derek said, both about Rob as well as Britney. Sandoval, of all people, gets roped into this conversation, and surprisingly, shocker, he is on Rob's tail. He's just like, look at the circumstances, look at what's gone down, look at this whole idea of framing and all that. It's just like, yeah, something in the buttermilk isn't quite clean. We also see Ciara outside with some of the ladies, once again picking up her target of Danielle regarding her theatrics and her questionable tears. And I'm just like, Ciara, please stick with that. Whatever it is regarding Danielle that's floating around your mind, please stick to it. Don't let it go. Jumping over to the challenge, whoo-hoo, man, easily the highlight of this episode, right? But we see everyone making their way outside to the tune of the wedding march. And we see everyone dressed to the nines in red and black. You know, had to be on theme myself. But I was like, okay, it's giving a look. I saw someone on Twitter saying like they need to dress like this all the time. And I'm like, I don't know if anyone would have the patience for that, but I'm kind of not mad at it. At least if they're not willing to dress, you know, obviously this is more dressy and formal. But I'm kind of here for like the color-coded looks. I think that would be really interesting. And then, of course, just as a general color scheme and theme, I thought it was nice. And I thought everyone looked pretty good. I think a few folks were chewing with their looks. At the very least, we had some nibbles, right? Believe it or not, I actually thought Dylan and Tom actually looked the best. So I was like, wait a minute. I wouldn't mind borrowing that myself. But overall, like I said, everyone does look really nice. I was especially shocked to see Rob without his hat. And I know if Bob the drag queen was here, he'd be like, oh, finally, that baseball cap. Because he was not a fan. And of course, we have Alan here to set it off in his bridal wear with an all-white suit, in addition to what looks like a lapel of bright red poinsettias going down the side. So in this challenge, we have all these people who are being split off into couples. Each couple is going to go head-to-head with another couple for protection. The 3 who win will be safe, and the 3 who are not will be left vulnerable for elimination. We have Sam and Ivar versus Tom and Dylan. We have Chrishell and Dolores versus Rob and Ciara. And we have Danielle and Britney versus Gabby and Carolyn. We arrived to what appears to be some kind of makeshift altar situation outdoors in a graveyard. And it turns out that the challenge seemingly is very simple. They stand on these respective plinths and they just have to hold hands for up to 8 minutes. If they make it through, then they will win $4,500, which will eventually or hopefully lead up to $27,000 in total. And I'm thinking, okay, clearly there's going to be some kind of wrinkle or complication here. And I was absolutely right. But even I underestimated what that complication was going to entail. After all, what is a wedding without presents? We see them putting their hands inside of a box, and I was like, oh no, it's over. It's over. Whenever you see, I watched enough reality television and enough competition shows. If you see a clear box, it's game over. So they have their hands inside, and something, of course, is being placed over their hands. And the first thing we see coming out of said boxes, we see giant millipedes. Chrishell punks out immediately. Chrishell punked out immediately. And the look on Dolores' face, she was hot. I know she was heated. She was like, oh Lord, I didn't pick the wrong partner. I was like, yeah. Honestly, you know, Chrishell is kind of a punk in general. I'm not gonna, you know, I've kind of said how I feel about Chrishell, but I'm not surprised. And look, you know what? Let me ease up on Chrishell for a minute, because I know my mom, I know a lot of my friends, I know how people are when it comes to bugs and stuff like that. So I'll give her some grace. However, I still understand why Dolores was salty. Honestly, if it were me, not even saying this about Chrishell, but my partner, I'm not gonna lie, I probably would have accidentally sprained their wrist or their finger, be like, we getting a shield today. So yeah, we would have had a situation on our hands. But either way, Dolores and Chrishell are officially out of the game. And also up for elimination. But who really had me cracking up was Rob and Ciara. Because Ciara refused to look at what was in that box, which I think is smart. I think, you know, it's in some ways it's worse to imagine what's crawling over your hands. But I think it gets even worse the more you look at it. And I also noticed that Gabby and Carolyn were doing the same thing. And Rob is doing all this talking to distract her. He's like, oh, when's your birthday? And, she is screaming and cussing up a storm. She is trying to respond, but she is over it. She is over it. But she's pushing through. And I think it's a great strategy. They discover that their birthdays are 2 days apart and they're both Capricorn. So, it's kind of a unintentional bonding moment in the worst circumstances possible. Our second present is a tailless whip scorpion. Now that I might be a little bit worried about. Only because I'm just like, I assume for the most part, scorpions or hopefully any insect, they can crawl without biting, but you never know. Some will do it just because they're like, what's this? And I don't have time for that. And then it gets worse. I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is about it. And I can't imagine how it can be much worse. I'm like, oh, they're going to just throw something else in the box. And at this point, it's like, well, you already got all this other stuff in there, so what's the big deal? I clearly spoke too soon, because when I tell you we get a monsoon, and I do mean a monsoon, of cockroaches, crickets, and mealworms. At this point, I might be second guessing things. I would still be hanging in there, but I don't know. Britney is talking about how the insects are non-consensually sprinting to second base and crawling into her shirt. Carolyn and Gabby, they're hollering and screaming. And honestly, a lot of the hollering and screaming, especially for the two of them, but it brought me right back to season 1, because Ciara and Kate, I believe, they had this challenge they had to do where they had to make their way out of this prison jail situation. And we're thinking oh, okay, it's already wet, it's dreary, it's kind of nasty and gross in there. And then they're like, hey, let's crank it up. Let's just throw insects on you. And all you see is them hollering and screaming and flailing. Bruh, the way I about passed out watching this, and look, I'm not saying I don't empathize, but just the way they were flipping out, I was done. I was so done. So the fact that they cranked it up and they had everybody going through this, I was like, bravo. Bravo. This is television. This is entertainment, I am telling you. We see Danielle flipping off Alan I'm done. I'm just done with this whole thing. So with bugs, for the most part, I'm not really scared of bugs. The worst thing I would have to worry about is just the sensation on my skin. Because it's just anything that kind of tickles my skin or has a sensation that would feel like it's itching. That's the only thing that would throw me off. Because I'll be like, And when anything is buzzing close to my ears and too close to my face, that's when I kind of all right, come on now. I'll kind of start swatting and stuff like that. But I'm not actually scared of insects. So I do think I can make it through, but I would definitely be if anything got too close to these ears or got in my shirt, I don't know. I probably would have been jumping and moving around a little bit. But I wouldn't have been hollering and screaming. I will say that. But either way, not an ideal situation. We then have a tiebreaker where we have a box of even more insects. And it was so many I couldn't even tell. But they have to dig through this box to find a ring. And whichever couple gets the ring, they will win and be protected from elimination. So when it comes down to it, Rob and Ciara are the first ones to win and be protected from elimination, and then that is quickly followed after this tiebreaker by Ivar and Sam, and then Danielle and Britney. After the challenge, once we make it back to the castle, we see Britney once again floating the idea of Rob being a traitor, considering what's happened to Derek. I was just like, had you gotten on board before now and not been all over the place, maybe y'all could have made something happen. Maybe you and Derek could have joined forces, but I digress. We'll let it go. It seems like she might be on the right track now. Sandoval is also pushing for Rob to be a traitor, and I will give Sandoval 2 points. I will, because it just seemed like Sandoval was lost in the woods. This man was in a haze, just creepy, weird, and uncomfortable, and it feels like whatever's going on, it's like he's getting his head in the game. And I'm here for it. We also see Rob trying to push for Britney regarding banishment, and he's pushing this to Ciara, Dolores, and Chrishell. Rob also lets Carolyn and Danielle know about going for Britney. Carolyn's like, okay, I guess, we'll see. Danielle obviously is conflicted. One, because she and Britney have been in sync. They've just gotten, they've been in sync for this last challenge, and that's kind of an ally of hers, and it seems like they're reunited, so she's like, I don't know. And then on top of that, she feels that Rob has been strong-arming her, and she's over that. But I just kind of feel like between her and Carolyn, I just feel like you have a voice, you need to use it, and like, unless Rob is in cahoots with production and they are making y'all agree to certain things, it's a no for me, because I'm gonna say what I have to say, and if I don't agree, I don't agree. Nobody can convince me of anything that I don't agree with. And I just think when it comes down to it, you letting Rob take control is wild to me, because you're also a part of this game. You are a traitor. You know what I'm saying? So if you're not gonna do anything, if you're not gonna stand up for yourself, you need to put up or shut up. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, Rob couldn't tell me nothing. Rob couldn't point me the way across the street. Okay? I wouldn't hear it. I ain't taking nothing off of him. Then we officially jump forward to the Roundtable, which is always one of the standout moments of the episode. But we see Dylan kicking things off, and shocker, he brings up what Derek said regarding Boston Rob and Britney. And he also highlights the fact that Britney did go out of her way to tell him not to vote for Boston Rob, which to me was not smart, but it's something she did, and now she's under suspicion. As far as his defense, Rob is throwing out a bunch of word salad as usual with no dressing, right? And eventually he does manage to bring up the fact that a few people knew that Derek did not have a shield. That includes Sam, Dolores, Chrishell, and Britney. So technically, you all should be the prime suspects, which I was like, okay, that's kind of a good deflection there. But in that group, who would be strategic enough to get Derek out of the game and then frame me? There goes that frame word again. But, who would do all that, just to frame me and take me out? The answer is simple.
It's Britney, bitch.
Yes, she is Rob's number one suspect. We saw it coming. But is everyone going to fall for the okie doke once again? Well, let's see. So, as far as the vote, I'm going to go from the bottom to the top. We get 2 votes for Tom. I'm sorry, we get 2 cop-out votes for Tom. One from Chrishell and one from Dolores. They can both go at this point. I'm tired. Dylan punks out as well because he doesn't want to go against his boss. I'm guessing he also doesn't want to potentially alienate Britney either, so he's just like, okay, I'll throw something at Gabby. Not because he actually thinks it's Gabby, he's too chicken to make the tough choice at this point. Ciara, wrong again. She votes for Britney, and she's like, I'll spend time with Rob. I don't think he's a traitor. And I'm just like, what does spending time just again, rationale. Again, I know we don't have that much to go off of, but I just like, anybody can say anything. I mean, there are sociopaths on this street that you can have a nice conversation with. You don't change the fact that they're a sociopath and might consider stuffing you in the back of somebody's trunk. That's real life. But I'm just saying, like, ugh. And of course, Rob votes for Britney as well. But, but the final vote for Boston Rob goes as follows. Tom, Britney, Carolyn, yes, Carolyn, Sam, Ivar, Gabby, Danielle, and that look on Carolyn's face when Danielle voted, she was like, oh, all right. Cool. Yeah, I kind of was like, I wasn't sure because the faithful have been so behind the 8 ball, but I was just like, seems to be a lot of votes for Rob, and eventually he gets the majority. I'm like, finally, at long last. It took y'all long enough, because I'm just like, I don't know how many times this man was going to take out somebody who called him out intentionally, directly at the round table, and him get, away at another round. I was just like, at this point, like, Boston Rob can take the whole thing, because I don't know what to say. But of course, my favorite part, one of my favorite parts, if not the favorite part, best part of the entire episode, which is, the send-off speech, the announcement speech, the piece de resistance, right? And eventually, Rob has no choice but to admit that from the very beginning all the way to now, I am and have always been a traitor. Everybody's going wild. Tom jumps up. He's like, hey. I'm like, look, I'll let him have it. I'll let him have it. Because look, Tom did what needed to be done. That's all it takes. Meanwhile, Dylan, the one person who we thought would have enough sense to actually vote Rob out, nope. Too busy playing patty cake. Boston's man, no. And in his final words in the confessional, Rob was saying that he feels that Carolyn was ultimately scared of him, but he doesn't know why, because he would have ultimately taken her to the end of the game. And I'm just like, the thing is, let's just say hypothetically, that could actually be true. But the thing is, based off of how you did Tony and Jeremy, especially Tony, but how you did both of them, and that's your survivor peeps, why would I trust you in any way, shape, or form? So I was just like, whatever, Rob. And but then he also decides to throw in one last jab. And he's just like, as far as Danielle's concerned, she's a bad traitor and a bad game player with equally bad hair. I mean, I guess he didn't technically say that last part, but to me, I just feel like it was implied. And speaking of Danielle, like I said, I was going to circle back, but Danielle's doing all this hooping and hollering about how she's so excited to get Boston Rob out of her. And I'm like, again, I don't understand what we're talking about, because it would have been an easy, extremely easy move to get together with Carolyn and to help get, the gameplay strategy. I don't get it. And I see people online saying I don't think it's that bad because, she's obviously fooling people. I'm like, then the folks are just slow. Okay? No. Let me just say that history has shown, even if we're to use Wicked as an example, maybe that'll be better. But history has shown that it's not hard to sway the masses and get people on your side. It doesn't mean that they're actually strategic or intelligent or any of those things. They're simply popular. It's not about aptitude, it's the way you're viewed. And that's really what it comes down to in this game. But Danielle does also mention how excited she is to be reunited with Britney. And I was thinking to myself, even though I'm not really that interested in seeing, the only reason I'm interested in seeing Danielle at this point is just to see how badly, even more, how much worse can she get as far as the gameplay? That's what I'm just kind of interested in her sticking around for. I would be interested at this point, since they seem to be so in sync. If Britney were to get recruited, I wonder if that would be of any benefit to Danielle's game, hypothetically. However, the reason I don't want that to happen is because Carolyn will most likely get caught in her crosshairs, or, it's going to become, she was already trying to get another traitor to take out Carolyn and or Boston Rob, so that wouldn't be good. But I'm just saying, as far as their dynamic as game players, it would technically be interesting to see how that plays out. So we then see Dylan, Tom, Chrishell, Dolores, Gabby, and Carolyn heading to the church at midnight. They are walking down the aisle and they are awaiting their fate, because tonight the Traitors will be doing their elimination face to face. Right before that commences, we see Danielle and Carolyn meeting. Obviously they're excited to have gotten Boston Rob out. And Danielle, again, is just like, I promise I got you. I promise I got your back. I really am sorry. I promise I'm just like, at this point, I'd rather you, I don't know. At this point, you have to have some sense of unity. So I get trying to, quote unquote, make things better. But it's just we go from being like, oh, I'll take you down, to be like, well, yeah, well, I'll just, I'll make things better, and, we can start over, and we can, I'm just like, ugh. Talking about you got Carolyn's back, it's BS. But Carolyn is just going to go along to get along at this point. Like, she knows what time it is, but we got a game to play. We then see everyone making their plea to the traitors in true melodramatic fashion. We see Tom, being happy to finally prove himself and to finally have some respect again. Even if he doesn't have it in real life and by, society at large, hey, at least he has it in this game. Small victories are still victories. What can I say? We also hear Dolores talking about some, I'm coming for you. I'm just getting started. I'm like, bye, Dolores. You got to go. Back to Jersey, okay? You got to go. I'm tired. I don't know what accent that was. That was Jersey mixed with something. But yeah, I'm like, Dolores, I can't anymore. I'm tired. You can go too. And as we close out, we see our very own traitors making their way through the church and stopping right behind one of the faithful. We don't know which. The last thing we see is Tom turning around. Elimination, elimination. Thy name is Traitor. And that closes out episode 7, Till Death Do Us Part. Really solid episode. I love the challenge. I love the fact that we finally got Boston Rob out, and I'm just really interested in seeing where things go from here. Like I said, strategy and gameplay is still in the toilets. It is down in the pipes, but I'm still getting some entertainment about it. However, I will agree with my mom when she says that we kind of have like the weakest, measly folks left at this point. Like no Wes, no Derek, none of the housewives at this point. Oh, well, except Dolores, but that ain't nothing. Like basically all the, everyone who really could have made more of a like impact are gone. So, but that comes down to the traitors and their poor gameplay as well. So, yeah. But anyway, I'm really interested to see who they choose. And I wouldn't mind more of these bug challenges, although I know they're probably not going to do any more now that we've got one. But yeah, as always, please feel free to let me know your thoughts on this recap and the episode. Do you think the traitors are going to make it out? Do you think Carolyn will make it out? I can only hope for the best in the meantime. So, once again, this is D, Movie Man, signing off, and I'll see you at the movie.